6:33 p.m. This is the regular meeting of the City of Torrington's Conservation Commission for Thursday, July 27, 2023, in room 250 of City Hall. Present is Aaron Stelma, Karen Spetz, Steve Ivane, staff member named Artie Cyrus, guest Liz Silphone, myself, Christine Altman. First order of business is the June 29th, 2023 meeting minutes for approval.
Can I have an extra copy if anyone?
I'm interested.
Oh, I only had one copy, I'm sorry.
Here, please.
Shared that with me. I can get
It's not like Tom to be absent.
He's not beholden to us, so.
Yeah, I know.
I know, he told me about this, so I'm.
He probably figured since you were here, you know.
I don't know.
Motion to accept those meeting minutes?
Okay. Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
I motion to adopt the meeting.
We have a second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. All right. New business, 980 Torringford Street application easement review.
Okay, so this is a piece of business. It's actually been before you fairly recently. Should be a pretty straightforward thing, but it does have to come to you. This is an application for Torrington Fair. And I think it was the beginning of 2022 this came in originally. So this is the Walmart Plaza. Just multiple copies.
Thank you.
So the first page is just the current conditions, plaza.
Okay.
Second page is more. So here we go. So on page 3, I guess, has really enough information. There's a new 3,300 square foot building that's going to be a bank. Remember approving
Yep,
a
I
pad
do.
for there?
Yep.
So the developer came back to us. Ken Rick is representing them from Rick Associates. He basically kept everything the same, so as to not enter the conservation easement at the front. The Conservation Commission has to review all city-held conservation easements prior to approval from planning and zoning, no matter where they are on the property. So really, this would just be a motion from the Conservation Commission acknowledging that this project is not within boundaries of the conservation easement and that a review is not.
Is that shown?
But if it's not even in the boundaries, why do you even need?
It's in the regulation, and you have to look at it and
Yeah, it's regulated.
tell
We
us
need to
that you,
make sure that we checked it.
right, you have to check to see that it is out, entirely out, and so they see on,
So is it?
It's this thing right here.
it is gonna be a,
Okay.
It's
yeah.
that right there.
So
So, I
there's
mean, it's not
some-
tiny, it's about the same size as the
Those are
McDonald's.
retaining wall there, that goes right up against the edge, but stays completely out of the conservation.
What page is that on?
That is page.
So that retaining walls already there?
Okay, I got it.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
Did you find it? I'm sorry.
Yeah, it says Chase Bank, but I'm looking for where the. Yeah, the conservation.
It's pretty light in there, but you can see limit of 250 foot
Oh, I
conservation
see it.
easement.
Yep, I see it.
So
So is this.
Yep.
this commission had already reviewed and, agreed that this was outside of the easement. Prior proposal that came in 2022. So all of the work that was along the edge here is the same. They just kind of reoriented the flow of traffic through that.
Now, they did straighten out, they are planning to straighten this road out, or did they change their mind?
This, whatever plans are being shown is what the orientation of it would be. So if it looks the
I don't
same, then it
remember.
would be the same.
I can't remember if it looks the same or not. There's
I think
a
it is,
big
because I think there's an
curve,
in and out.
And they wanted to straighten it out, so maybe the conservation easement ordered that.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
but there's not really a change to the location of
Yep,
this,
got
it's just the orientation within.
Okay.
And it does for your, consideration, so there was a wetlands permit application filed for this.
Yep.
There was a prior agent approval, which is a administrative permit that we issue through our department. So I just amended that prior approval because
Okay.
the engineer was able to demonstrate there would be no significant change in stormwater runoff from the redesign of the project. It's really just putting the drive-through in a slightly different orientation,
Mhm.
than it was before. But we do need,
We need a motion and a,
yes,
all right, so do we have a motion?
I'll motion to approve. Essentially.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
sorry, so Steve motioned, and then who seconded?
Aaron? Or Aaron?
Aaron did.
Okay.
Now, every time they make a change to their blueprint, it would come back through us.
Anytime anything happens on the Walmart Plaza property, it will come to
Okay.
this commission.
Mhm.
There's a likely proposed interconnect that would interconnect Target to the Walmart Plaza
Yeah.
in the rear of the property.
That proposal was there from day one.
Yeah. That may be modified.
Okay.
They want to combine stormwater on the two properties. Target doesn't want the interconnect.
That's why it never happened.
They don't want they don't want competition. They don't want people going, which I think is kind of a bad argument.
Yeah,
Because
so
plenty of people
silly,
would go to
because
Target
they're-
and then go to Price Chopper or go to Market
Exactly,
32.
exactly.
And it's such a
Or go to
safety,
Market 32
it's such a
and then
safety
go.
issue on
It
going
really
on
is.
and off of East Main.
Yeah,
just to
it's
come
funky
in.
because it's 4 lanes. of
Yeah,
traffic there.
so-
Yeah, you go out one place.
That's kind of a little muddy. I
Yes,
mean, the competition is right there.
yeah,
Like having an interconnect really doesn't change the fact that the competition is there, and I think that generally.
yeah. Our office is holding them to the regulations as hard as possible until they
Yeah, good.
until they make that interconnect,
Yeah.
which is, not a huge need for them, but
Yeah.
we've been making a jump through hoops.
I
with
mean,
the-
that's been like well over a decade that we've been trying. I mean, that was in the original proposal. We asked for that when the Target went in.
Yeah, so I guess the wheels are turning again on that, but we'll just see where it goes. But
Interesting.
regardless, there may be changes associated with that, and that will come back to the commission. All acknowledge that the easement is nowhere near.
Anything significant with the water? Around
That would, if there was gonna be anything to that, it would go to the wetlands. I mean, it all depends on if it's just related to the stormwater basins, but they do discharge there's a stream that comes through underneath the Target. Discharges in the conservation land, so yeah, it'd probably require a permit, an additional permit. Unless they're gonna stick, the interconnect's already shown on the plans. They may already have a permit for a certain amount of work, it all depends on how significant.
Okay, staff meeting with HVA.
So I went out on site, Housatonic Valley Association, it's the nonprofit watershed association for our region.
Mhm.
I think historically, we've been kind of a backwater because we're on the Naugatuck branch of the Housatonic, which
Yep.
is the less loved and
Yes.
less affluent branch.
Yep.
So I met with, actually someone who I used to work with in New York, which was kind of
Oh.
fun, who moved on to that organization. And she had some updates. The first one, they are full, that they are gonna work with Aquarian to get a conservation easement on the water company.
Good.
I don't know if anyone that knows the extent of them, but there's
They're
obviously
huge.
the ones in Torrington,
Yeah.
but they own a significant amount of land in Goshen, like
Mm-hmm.
huge amount of land, thousands of acres. So, most of that is protected already, kind of
Because of the water.
because of the water quality, but there's something called tier 3 lands, and these are just land holdings that the water company owns that they do forestry on, but aren't connected directly to water quality, and they're free to dispose of those. So the HVA is gonna look to try to secure those with. An example of one of those in Torrington is, Marshall Lake.
Mhm.
You're familiar with that property on
Mhm.
Marshall Lake Road, you'll notice if you're driving up there, there's a harvest pretty recently. It was on the property there. So anyway, so that, I just wanted to let the commission know about that project.
Is there a lot of limitations on those lands? Like for development, you think they're selling off those properties? What is that?
My understanding, the tier 3 lands don't really have anyone
That's why
at
they're
all.
at risk.
So,
Yeah, the other ones, like the ones that are adjacent to the Torrington Historical Society property, kind of from Pothier Road, you go down there, you kind of see where those lands are. Those ones are secure because they're all protecting the water supply directly. And there's a complex relationship between the state and the water companies that I'm not completely aware about or understand.
Mm.
But it's my understanding these secondary lands are at risk. One of those is Marshall Lake, the other one is another fairly large land holding that's up off of Norfolk Road, kind of before you get to the Hart Reservoir,
Mhm.
kind of by Camp Mo there. It's a nice big piece of property, beautiful location and logically very valuable. So it'd be great if they could protect those. And they may ask that either the city or potentially the land trust might be hold with that easement because they don't hold property.
Mhm.
I think it would be a great story if the city owned it, just
Yeah.
because we're the beneficiaries of that water quality.
Yeah.
But it would be great if Heritage owned,
Be nice
that
to find
easement as
out
well.
too, if they have no interest in that, then we have properties to keep our eye on.
for acquisition or.
Yeah, I mean, well, I would think that so we have an issue of funding, right? Like, I mean, that's our issue. But if we know way ahead of time that there are properties that are at risk, I would think that might be a possible, avenue for fundraising.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
There's some federal grants.
Yes. And we did, and HVA is a great organization to help with that. They
Mhm.
would do the grant writing, there may be match required from the municipality. She kind of went through all the programs.
Mhm.
There's pots of money. So again, I mean, Heritage, she could talk about this better than I can.
Yeah.
But, they want to work with us on
Good.
some of these properties.
Okay,
So.
that's good.
Yeah, so that's just a good connection to
And
have.
then, yeah, and then the quality of the properties is fantastic too.
Oh, yeah, they're really
Yeah, these would be major.
very
differences.
significant.
Yeah.
And just in general, they want to engage more with us. I think they're new water quality managers from Hartford area and
Okay.
like wants to have more of an urban engagement, whereas that
Fantastic,
organization
that's
is
well.
more,
Yeah, I mean, why throw the urban areas under the bus?
right,
Right.
there's a lot of effort going into the main stem of the Housatonic
Yeah.
and Cornwall and.
Right, of
and
course.
those places,
Yeah.
but, anyway, so yeah, all that's great news.
Yeah.
She did want to come in and talk to the Conservation Commission because they do have this kind of interesting project that I thought would be really nice for the commission once
Okay.
we're done with our open space inventory as far as field work goes. They've remotely identified wildlife corridors, forest connection pinch points where there are road crossings throughout their entire region, and they're asking for local people to go and kind of ground truth those that will come up,
Interesting.
remotely.
So I have a question, is there like a end game on that, like bridges or tunnels for those?
I think that's the
Yeah.
idea is that they could, they would have
Get
this
funding
data
to
and then they can
create-
use it to leverage that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know how much funding is out there for that right now. It might have to be put together pretty creatively,
Yeah.
but just a better understanding of where those are.
Yep.
But it
Yeah,
would be
that's
great if she could come talk about how that would be evaluated by the commission. So if the commission's interested, I could reach out to her and have her come to, if not our next meeting, some other meeting in the fall. There's no rush on it. I know
Okay.
we have our cleanup, so, that's before.
Yeah. Well, I'm interested in it. I don't know what the timing should be, but definitely.
I will second
So maybe I'll do something for October.
Yeah.
Does that seem like that works well with everyone?
Yeah, I mean, we're not gonna get to the inventory aspect of it. Probably spring anyway, the earliest.
Right, but just having her talk
About this, so yeah.
and just in more detail, you can ask her more questions about some of the other projects that they're doing. So I'll ask her about our October meeting.
All right, old business. Estate planning.
Yes, and this is why I invited Liz, because she, she was the one who made our connection with the high school this year. and was very,
okay.
very
Which
engaged
was
in helping
fantastic
us,
for us, yeah.
like, get the word out, and we had a great
Good
turnout on
turnout,
Earth
yep.
Day, and on Earth Day, Liz said, I wanna be involved
Yeah.
in more of the planning, and I've got bigger ideas, so I thought,
Oh, I can't
what a
wait,
great
let's hear it.
opportunity, so,
No, yeah, well, I just think, there's a problem in our city.
It is.
And, what can we do differently? And certainly Earth Day, I know part of Torrington Trail, I
Mhm.
apart from teaching. And really enjoy, Trails Network, working done. Yeah, we actually left, Camp Mo with, last week and working on the new John Brown beginning. We've got
Oh, good.
2, 3, 10-foot, 8-foot, 8-foot at the beginning. We finished the 5. So it's just really, really great. And this week, on Tuesday morning, I was a counter. He asked us and us to see how many people are using the Sioux Grossman Trail. And my sister and I did 8 to 9, 9 to 10 on Tuesday. And people, we wear the vest, counter, here we are. That's why I'm saying here, I'm kind of talking a lot about it, but the people stopped us and, here and we told them. But they were concerned about some things on the Sioux Grossman Trail. I know the city of Torrington is responsible for the Torrington section, right? And then, so I had some suggestions there, and I thought if we were talking about Red Mountain Trail also, that those could go with that. But I just think, can we turn it around to positive thing? History buff, and I have a book that my great grandfather had from I know it's History of Torrington. Slogan for Torrington, active and active, and that's so perfect for trails and making sure that, so, if we would have, the Clean Up the World Day is one thing. Can we get out into the schools, making sure that they understand it? I know I retired from a high school in 6, and I know they have to do service. And I just think it's a great getting community building. Start at the middle school or younger. I know your wife is in younger kids, but I just think that that's important. So I thought, Mark McCarran had said, I like that slogan of 1912,
Yeah.
and I just a little bit of history there, and I think kids would, and you, that they would, and if we reached out to the schools, we can do it. So I did reach out to the guidance department, Barbara Beebe, Torrington, Stephanie Redmond at Region 6. They put it on their social media, and all the kids got notices of it. And I use her, like, Erin, can you, go into that? So I was just thinking, what can we do to be more proactive?
So I think that's a great question, and if we have any kind of I'd love to get them. I feel like one of the things that I'm noticing, I live near, and I feel like there's much less buy-in to not literally now than there was when I was young.
Well,
And I mean,
yeah.
and I would love to, so I think some of it is that, I think that if kids are cleaning it up as it is, and there might be more awareness and buy-in to not this place, but like, it's just, I walk around Bessie Pond a lot, I'll take trash cans and just throw them into the pond, from the park. And, more participation. So I'm wondering if there are programs that we can develop
Well, that's,
where we have, where we work with kids within the school system year round.
that's what was my thought. Can we get in there and do something like it? And I don't know, I know that my daughter, she, the mayor, Carbone, mayor's committee on youth, and they did
Mhm.
clean up, or they clean up here. But I don't know that if that's when I checked the website, the last date I saw was 2017. I
Yeah.
don't know if it's still,
I have not really seen those, so, I personally, and I could be wrong, because I think that there used to be, more of a system where people gather at the park, even if they had a group that called ahead. If that group would gather at wherever it was that we were meeting, and we could really see who was out there, and I think that as the cleanups evolved, some groups would just kind of go, so they pledged to do it that day. They'd go out there, we wouldn't really see them. They might bring bags, bring their own gloves and everything else. So I'm not clear on what organizations are still doing it, but I will say that I've seen less of Chamber of Commerce. I've seen less of Mayor's Office in recent years.
yeah, and I'm just looking,
Yeah.
let's get out there and see what can we do? I mean,
Yeah,
you
I
know, that
agree.
we could do this, and I
Yeah.
thought trails would be a great way to show it, and doing the counting, they had, you know, need a sweeper for the trails because of the rain, heavy rains that we had, the
Created some runoff and so.
yeah, or yes, there's some problems there, and then this is just, I'm not a dog owner. They said that, I'm thinking positive signs, and maybe a contest of some sort, where the kids could come up with something, or be a responsible pet owner. They were saying that they're,
Oh, that they're leaving poop.
yes, they have the bags there. And I just thought signs, I mean, I know Steve and I have talked, I live on, West, and we walk, my husband and I, fill up white garbage bag, on our trips. And it's crazy that much, and many of them are the little nips, you know.
I was gonna say in my neighborhood, it's the McDonald's bag, beer cans.
Beer cans, so
And
water
it's gotta
bottles,
be
yeah.
like, on this road, it's pretty, not a lot of houses. But like I keep thinking it must be like the same person over and over who just uses the side of the road as their.
I know, but, so going back to
Yep.
active and attractive,
Yep.
you know, that can be, or keep our trails littered. And I said to Nate, why can't we say, keep our city litter-free and get out? Said, what happened to Woodsy the Owl? Give a hoot, don't pollute. You know, I mean, that was really something that was there, and I still did and saw it, you know, it came out right after the first Earth Day, shortly. I just think that should be something that we should be doing in, that it is our responsibility. We have one Earth,
Yeah.
one world,
Yeah.
and we owe it to children. So there's a little acronym, One World Earth, WE, we owe it to the future. We're looking at climate change, so I just would like to be part of something. If, I don't know which avenues we need to do. Do you reach to the Board of Ed? Do you reach to the
Yeah.
PTOs? Do you reach?
I have found it very difficult to get entry into the public school system in terms of.
Somebody else said that to me,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking as
So the
public school
question is
teacher,
where is the point of entry for us?
And I think, like, it seems to me, based on the dates that you were talking about with that lines up when Kim Barberi left.
Yes, yeah,
So,
Yeah.
Kim Barberi, who was in my position 3 people ago,
Yeah.
who ended around 2017.
I think 2017.
Yeah, she had been there for like 12 years.
okay,
Mhm.
then that
So
would
like
make
being
sense.
in this position for that long,
She
you
had,
can get
she
more
had a
efficient and.
She really had a very
Yeah,
good network. She
Yes.
had a network and she had a system and was very efficient at that, for sure. And then that knowledge left with her, I would
Right.
say.
the connections with the high
Yeah,
school,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
growing the program.
I know the guidance department, I mean, when we want things out, that's where it went, and that's who I went to. I didn't know, it took me a long time to find out who was in charge in Torrington High, but I knew Stephanie Redmond. Logo, Region 6, which next year, 2024, 2025, it will be Region 20, so it will be Litchfield also, so it's Litchfield. But I know they do their own cleanup, birthday things, right? But if it could be more of a community, meaning Litchfield, these are our towns right here, Jason, and I'm thinking with this. Right, that it's going that way, you have Litchfield, you have Harrington, so, you know.
Well, I would actually like to have, surrounding towns on board too, because I think we have trash pickup by our taxes. We get a lot of dumping
Yes.
along all of
Yep.
the city, lines, perimeters, because, people are not, they're having to pay out of
Right.
pocket, so they know what the cost is.
Yeah.
We
But
kind of,
the funny thing, it comes.
and we
to point that-
subsidize them, basically.
But
Or,
now you have to call though.
Right.
You have to call if you have ticket items.
Right,
Which
right.
is probably a good thing for us. But again, that message, I think kids knowing it,
I agree.
My kids don't litter. I know they don't, well, I don't, it's
Right.
just not, I mean, they're not kids anymore. They're
Right.
Kids, but 26
Right.
and 31, I mean.
Yeah.
And so it has to start early.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the capstone where they have to have so many hours.
Yes,
Ours
do we know
was,
what that is?
I don't know if it's each school board that does it, but
Okay.
I know it was 10 hours per year, I think,
Starting with,
freshman year, sophomore year. But why couldn't you start at the middle?
Right.
Why couldn't you, and especially
and why
where
couldn't you
it's
have some
going to-
programs in the elementary school that kind of prime people
for this, then
for
what
that.
can you do?
And they don't
Yeah.
necessarily have to be doing litter. So while she's speaking about this, I'm wondering whether this is a good place to also combine with the Northwest Conservation District and their community building around food forests.
With ways.
With ways to enter into, ways to have a program that's outreach and education for our public school students. And maybe an earlier, like this might, like having the food forests and the, community ownership of guilds in different areas, like that's early intervention. You're getting the kids working on environmental issues, right? And it's fun, and you're creating something, and then you're building that relationship with the land, so that as you get into the middle school area, that relationship is there more, and you can start, if they're out and about, they're gonna be seeing, I'm sure they're already seeing a litter, but, then you start with maybe some service and cleanups and just getting some groups. So I'm just thinking that maybe it's a way of, again, we have to find a point of entry
Right.
somewhere,
Right.
and yeah.
Someone who's like for the cause. I think, so many
And
people
people
who
are
are in
overworked,
education,
too.
right,
know?
they're like struggling just to get the kids, to do their work and learn and behave and,
Right.
so do they want?
I don't think it's one more, but see, that's where I come from. As I was a special ed teacher, believe me, I know what the kids struggled with, and during COVID, it was really difficult. But I'm just saying, as far as it's our responsibility, and I love Earth Day and I love clean up the World Day. That's 2 times during year. Can we make it more so it is they're taking all that?
Well, I guess my point was, and I'm very much in favor of what you're saying, but to find the right person inside, someone similar to you who has that same vision as the point of entry, it needs to be a key person who has that, to do something like this.
Is Fit Together still a program in Torrington?
Yes, it
July?
is. It is
So you've
separate.
got Fit Together.
And I just want to say, we walked Camp Mo. Greg asked us, could we take a look at that? Torrington Trails did last Wednesday, and they have 74 acres. That's what they have. And he's talking about, Tommy Candecker brought up the forest. And he was like, wow, that's really, I mean, that's really cool stuff. And that's, to me, that could be elementary and then move and to.
Right.
And Steve, I know you said you did cleanup with the kids. You were talking about maybe going to the gardens. I'm not.
Yeah, a scout troop was looking for a spot, but
Right.
you know, we checked out a few spots, but they were actually really clean.
Right,
The Bowman Gardens were like pristine.
Right.
and we're
but
happy
that's
with
what
that.
it needs to be.
And you mentioned Mark McCarron, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so Torrington Historical Society, right?
Mhm.
I'm just wondering,
They have an education person.
Okay.
Because he said she was, and I talked to him about something, we should get back to that, because, you know, they're doing the connection with 5 Points
Yeah.
and John Brown.
Yeah. I wonder if it would be, I mean, so we have the Conservation Commission, there's Fit Together, there's the Torrington Trails Network, there's Camp Mo, Torrington Historical Society, there's the Land Trust. There's the Northwest Conservation District. So with these organizations, could we put together education modules to go in and teach a module in a particular class? Like, could something like that happen? And that, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I think that this is a longer term project,
Right.
but like a collaborative project, you can either provide education modules that are in line with whatever the, yes, go ahead.
I know 4-H does something similar to
Mhm.
that, where they have a after-school program,
Mm-hmm.
where there's like a group of kids, I don't know if it's some kind of after-school program, but 4-H would go and each different club would go and present a little piece on what they do, what that club focuses on, it's about either the animal or whatever.
So what about at
So I'm-
Advance? Because at Advance is an after-school program. Is
Yeah,
that
they
a
do,
point
they
of-
have a
is that
before school
point
and an after
of
school.
entry possibly?
Well, I thought of that.
I think they're always are in Thornton.
Thing, and there's a lot.
There's a lot, yeah.
50, 100?
No,
There's dozens.
There's the Northwest Hills Coalition of Governments, which is on the county government level. They have a mapper that they have a lot of the trails that are there kind of on a sort of, you know, online map interface. We zoom in and give you the trailhead and all that stuff. So that, I feel like that's like the best that I've seen kind of catalog of them.
Well, we
Oregon
have a
Trails
trail,
has
we have a
contributed to that.
map that we give out when trying to get people join. I know you were at the farmer's market Saturday before, and four people had signed up.
Yeah.
And when we were meeting, when we were counting that morning, somebody else signed up because I said, oh, thank you so much for picking up litter. He had picked something. He says, well, it's pretty clean today, you know, so he was happy, but I says, oh, well, you know, I have this meeting, I'm gonna bring it up. And he said, he gave me his email and.
Oh, that's good.
And he wants to do it. So I know there are people that we do it. And I
Mhm.
even just thought with the capstone and having to do the community, maybe they would want to go to the trails and kind of do a clean thing. I know, I think it's Ed Connection. Rock garden, you can pick a rock and the Sue Grossman going towards Winstead and do a special message, you know, I did a be kind. You know, I mean, those types of things that, are, I mean, you want to stay positive, so that's why I say keep our trail. Be responsible. Those were just things
So you had said something like maybe a sign competition?
Yeah, I mean,
I like that idea.
so
You know,
we
so
either
like you
meet,
put that out to
Put that
a
out.
particular age student and say, here's a sign competition for Sue Grossman Greenway.
yeah, or for Trails in Connecticut,
Yeah.
or for, I was thinking bigger. Sections of Torrington, you have the west end, you have the east end, you have the south or southeast. I mean, like you have neighborhood watches. I know this is really big, but I'm just, why can't we do that? And that the norm being, am I idealistic? The norm is we don't litter. We don't wanna,
Well, I think that we are looking to have, I mean, other projects we have require community investment and buy-in. So we need to build neighborhood groups, right?
Right.
So anything that we have that can bring people together, and it can be from different, you have different spokes of the wheel going towards that center to create a group, I think is a good thing. It seems longer term to me, but I think that we could certainly get letters out to different people, different organizations who could participate. So let's talk about this upcoming one
Mhm.
and, you know, like our short-term goals for that.
participation. I thought the minutes that Tommy had shared said you were gonna maybe have, I don't know if you have a flyer or something for that.
I do, yes.
Yeah, just as far as that goes, I mean, what Nate did for the Earth Day one, he gave it to me and I shared it with the DHS and
Good,
Region 6, so I can do that. But I was thinking even more because we know it now, we know the date, it's the 16th. Maybe even visit there, and if there are the guidance counselors, I'm assuming that's what it would be, get a feel of students who are really that, I mean, I'd be willing to meet
Okay.
with them and talk. I'm just thinking if
That's
you
great.
can do
Yeah.
that would be a great thing. And that's why I wondered, elementary PTO or at the, you know, I don't, you're asking kids who are interested in our environment, one world. Something that that's
Okay.
kind of where I'm coming from. So I don't know if that makes sense or.
Yeah, I mean, I had a thought about that as well. I mean, again, maybe this isn't gonna work time-wise with this cleanup, but it is kind of cool because we're gonna be focusing on the mountain trail area. And it would be really cool, since we focused on an area, if we had like a school group come out or a group of come out, and just do a walkthrough of the trail site. You know, and like, you know, I would be happy to be there and like about the ecology and some of the stuff that's there, there's some interesting wetlands and history, maybe someone about like the history of the railroad that goes through there, something like that, and just kind of like really build love for the site, you know, prior to the event, and then be like, okay, now we're gonna clean it up.
Yeah.
You know, really would kind of motivate people better than just, you know,
Have you been up to the top of the hill? Where there's, so you have the railroad, you know,
Right.
the old railroad. But then some of the trail goes up to the left, up to the top. I mean, you can actually get to it from Stone Ridge.
Right.
You can
Right.
just drive up Stone Ridge to the dead end and you can
Right.
walk. It's owned by a development company now in Glastonbury.
Mhm.
But that ridge line, that up there, has a heron rookery. It has a beaver meadow, like a beaver pond that filled in. and-
Sunnybrook, sounds like Sunnybrook.
But it's not.
Well, it's adjacent to Sunnybrook.
Yeah.
Yes,
but
it
it's-
is.
But
It
it's,
is.
yeah, it's not protected.
No, I mean, but it's
Yeah.
a fantastic, I mean, that in our plan of conservation development, that is one of the pieces that we're hoping at some point to conserve as a wildlife corridor. But I mean, the ecology up there is amazing.
Right. But, but there is.
And it's like right in the center of Torrance. It's like kind of amazing.
Right. And even the stuff on the railroad bed is like, the wetlands there are really interesting because they
Yeah.
kind of formed because of the railroad, and the Naugatuck River there has a lot, like, brook trout. I don't know if that'll work for the timing of this, just
Yeah.
because we'll start, like, right, like,
Right,
you'd have to get it
that's the
all
thing.
set up, and it would be like,
Right.
It's,
you'd have to get kids willing to actually go on their own, which is, you know, it'd be ideal to have like,
a time. a set
yeah,
time.
something that can be promoted or have transportation or something to get people there. but-
So at this point, I think that it is really positive just to have, I mean, just having, gotten the word out like you did for Earth Day made a big difference. We hadn't seen that many teenagers in quite a while. in a number of
I think
years.
they
So-
want it though, that's my view.
Well, I
really
mean,
do.
we just have to get the information to them, and I have, you know, I have a friend, I have two friends who teach at the high school, and I've asked them to Earth Day every year for years.
Yeah, well, I know that Barbara put it on, she said, I put it on social media, she emailed me, I think I forwarded it to or maybe I didn't, and I know that Stephanie Redmond was filling in, she did it, and I know that, my friend Erin will also do it, so
So I
there's
mean,
three.
that is, yeah, exactly. So just even that and having the place, the entry for outreach
Yep.
and getting the word out to the right people,
Yep.
I think is a fantastic start, and we already saw an improvement in our.
And what about going to the schools? Is that something that I could do?
Yes, yes,
So
absolutely.
just.
So if we get you the flyers,
Yeah, I
what
could
is it
do
you
that,
need?
but I'm thinking going to this and saying, are there students here? Because I'm sure kids would want to do it. I remember one student was, or young man was waiting for you to sign his community service hours, you know, that I worked here.
Yeah, oh, we had a ton of people doing that. I think it's just a cool, you know, the great thing about you going is that you can speak to the trail.
right?
Yeah.
Which is like, you know, really like, not to say that cleaning up the whole town isn't, it's just it's a big kind of, a little bit more abstract thing than just like, we have this trail, it's a really beautiful area, but it's very dirty and we need to clean it. It's like very straightforward, part of a bigger plan to connect the trail to the town. Yeah, but I mean,
You know, the other thing that we could use, is, you know, at the high school and the middle school, there are kids from all over. So we can also, one of the things that we lack, manpower to do is the inventory of where the worst litter sites are throughout the town. So, and, you know, in recruiting and to give community service hours for getting that information for us and mapping. They have much better use of technology than probably us.
that'd be really cool
Too.
if they would be able to like,
We-
have someone set up an app or something like
Yeah.
that, or just, yeah, like just
Well,
provide pictures and like
idea.
tag where they
Yeah.
are, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
That'd be
So,
really
yeah, if
cool.
we have like a, you know, a little army of inventory, kids who are inventorying the worst spots of litter in their neighborhoods
And you'd think that
And what can we do to
after
change
doing that, you may be motivated
to
to
go and
clean it up
have,
yourself.
yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Or to volunteer for that on the Earth Day.
Winston had adopt a storm drain on your street.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
cool.
so, and it's been going on for years and years, so you have neighborhood groups, and they got them active, cleaning up to, you know, does the water really drain in your stuff? Which is actually kind of important. So we could do something similar, but adopt an area that. I clean it.
Adjacent street, I know you
Yeah.
have a 4-mile
I
radius.
do it 4 square miles, and, you know, if you think about, you know, you need a dozen groups and cover that.
It isn't once you go. Now with the poison ivy out, it's kind of tough. and
Yeah.
everything's-
Well,
But
and that's why.
That's why
it
April,
was-
I mean, April really is more conducive to the cleanup than the September one for sure, just because nothing's leaked out yet.
And if we kind of plan in the fall, get outreach started, to having kids mapping and stuff, and then they come back from winter break,
Yeah.
you know, then it's, you know, that period where everything looks the ugliest and is the most exposed, and, you know, that could give us enough time.
But
to actually get in
usually
there.
September, I thought the river water would be lower.
Not
in
this
the
year.
fall, But maybe not this year, but would that be like a river clean?
Right, but that, yeah, right, and a lot of it wasn't in the river to have anyway, other than what Tom did last year.
Is Trout,
Yeah.
is Trout Unlimited still active?
Yes, I
They
know it
are.
is I know it is in Vermont.
I'm just wondering if our local chapter, that they were trying to get, and, you know, and we haven't been teaming up with them. It used to be Earth Day cleanup in the spring, and we did a river cleanup with Trout Unlimited in the fall.
But we're trying to move this World Cleanup next to the Red Mountain Avenue
Right.
to get a little attention to the new trail.
Mhm.
And we get to participate in the cleanup and,
And find this
check out
wonderful,
this trail.
yeah, but this is, I grew up in the north, so it's in my backyard. I mean, I remember walking the railroad, when I was a kid, we would skate on the river. I mean, that was,
Okay, so then in terms of, we have our Boy Scout troops, we have our karate studios, what else?
I reached out to young professionals,
Yeah.
I didn't hear anything.
Okay.
Like this, and I
Okay.
couldn't really, like, there is a chapter in Torrington, and
Okay.
didn't have, they had a couple contact email and number, and it
Yeah.
just didn't get anywhere.
What
Can we
about
get a-
FFA? Do
Say
we have
again?
FFA?
that's part of, Wamogo, yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's
so
the
it's
next one I was gonna say.
Wamogo,
Or
does-
anyone
it's
in-
any, technical science school, so Region 7, Region 1, 6, and, no, Region 10, they send our kids. But, yeah, I can check with, I mean, Stephanie Redmond was a Torrington resident, McCormick was, and she went to Wamogo, and she's now the, so she loves, FFA was really
Okay.
important to her, so she's a great.
And could we draft up a letter to send to those organizations and say that we, to alert them that this is happening, that it is opportunity for community service hours, and that we welcome teams, and if they would like to form a team. There,
Great.
blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I think what I'll do is I'll draft it up and I'll circulate it to the email, and I'll keep you on that, Liz.
Okay.
And then you can give me feedback on it, and if
If
you're
it looks
with
good,
it, I'll
then it goes
use
out to the addresses
all the
that we
lists
sent.
that we've put
Okay.
together, and
Okay.
then I'll, and if Liz is gonna contact the high schools directly,
Yeah,
you'll
I'm
have that
thinking we'll go-
information,
Right,
and,
you're thinking of walking in.
I'm
Right,
thinking
right.
of going in,
Yeah.
well, after, I'll email them, because
Yeah.
they were fine with that, but just kind of talk to them.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a desire for, certainly there's a need,
Mhm,
they have to
mhm.
have the community,
Mhm.
it can turn into a love for them.
well, and they're better situated to be able to say how we can fit in the bigger
Yeah.
projects too, right?
Yeah.
Like, they might say, oh, well, we actually have this module thing already set up, and we're
Right.
looking for people, and then it's
Yeah.
like, okay, great, we'll fit in there.
Right,
And
exactly.
Versus
What is it
trying
that
to
you
design
need
it for
and how
them.
can they, well, that's
Right.
exactly what I would say, is they have a curriculum that they've gotta stick to.
Right.
So then the thing is there any, do they have needs and are any of these organizations that we may be able to partner with suitable to go in and
Do we plan on,
speak?
posting any flyers, like at the library? or-
Yeah, so
Even
did
the
you all
state
get,
parks
did you all
or
get my
anything?
draft flyer and press
Yes.
release?
Yeah.
I just, if you wanna give me any comments on that,
Sent it to my friend who lives at the Warrenton Mills.
okay. And don't fully release them yet, because I have a meeting with Ocean State Job Lot next
Okay.
week, finally. And they haven't formally given us permission to set up there yet,
Okay.
so.
Oh, okay.
Tentatively, it seemed that they've been very opaque, so I just don't wanna pull the trigger on this until I get the thumbs up.
Right.
Their local property manager is there, is gonna be at this meeting, and I think she's the one that would be okaying this rather than the regional
Right.
folks. This is a meeting about the trail easement for the
Yeah.
Red Mountain Trail.
Right.
And again, that's something that I'll let Region Trails know once we figure it out, but yes, so this is what I have right now. Do any, I realized I didn't put Ocean State Job Law also, but, any other
Oh, yeah, we
additions?
probably do wanna put that for sure.
I did put Torrington Trails on there as another partner. Save the Sound always kind of like does promotion for us, so I had them on there as
Oh, okay.
well. Last year, they were the ones who got,
Can I?
Yep.
Take a
Yeah.
picture of it?
yes, absolutely. I can send you a copy of
Yeah,
as
that
well.
would be great.
But the World Cleanup Day is the overall umbrella thing,
Yes.
like it's been.
Yep.
And I think it's kind of a cool logo, so,
And I don't know, years ago, Keith, Much had, proposed to us that we do Clean Up the World Day back when Mr. was here.
yeah.
And he was doing a lot of the organization for it, and he he got permission to use Woodsy Elm.
Okay.
Give a hoot, don't hoot. So for any of the World Cleanup Day stuff that Torrington does, we are allowed to use
Oh,
Woodsy Elm.
okay, that's a good piece of institutional
That's a,
knowledge.
I think that's a great
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
We're bringing back Lindsay.
Yes,
That's right.
yay.
I mean, I can make that a change if you like.
If you want to.
It is World Cleanup Day that I was using for this. It's weird. I don't understand how all this stuff works.
Yeah, I don't
Clean Up
know.
the World Day is like a different,
Is it?
but they do it on the same day. I
So
don't know
that's kind of
how
interesting
they
because it was,
work.
because I remember when Keith did it, it was Clean Up the World Day.
Well, there's both, I think.
Yeah,
I think there
alright.
still is, I don't know. But anyway,
All right,
if you
well,
want, I can
just
have.
a better
Like
logo.
say,
I don't-
you know, we need you, we need volunteers.
Some call to action,
Call to action.
you know, create community, better your city.
We need your help.
Yeah, we need you.
Yeah. Complete.
And then would, you want me to, Lindsay, do I have to, I'll check.
I don't know. I think you're just allowed for music,
Okay.
just letting you know.
This, I mean, this is up to, I'm marketing for the group, so if we're all okay on Woodsy, I can throw Woodsy on here.
I think Woodsy would be, I'm just saying
We're
for,
fine for the kids.
for little kids,
Yeah.
for elementary kids, and not that Eileen, my sister Eileen was like, well, what happened to Give a Hoot Jump
I
Balloon?
mean, I like that
You know, that was
um,
something
Yeah.
that we had,
Yeah.
you know.
graphic there, so I
It
wouldn't want to
is,
clutter it.
Well, I was asking if you want me to replace the graphic.
Oh, with Woodsy?
Oh,
Yeah.
no, I really.
No, I
like
would
that.
Do you like that?
You
Okay.
can have, yeah, I think
Oh,
just
you
put
have
a
it
little,
thrown
maybe
in
you
the
just
corner?
have, maybe you just
A
have
little-
Woodsy, a little
little-
guy.
But for elementary, if I get the okay, for the middle school, guidance, there's something here, Woodsy would be more appropriate.
I can do two versions. Doesn't change much.
Yeah, it changes the audience, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll do that. And then the press release, I mean, you can read that in your own time, I guess, and let me know.
yeah.
Again, I'm waiting till next week, so if you want to just give me any comments before next week
Okay.
on the press release. Wove it into our standard sort of press release, but try to bring in the Red Mountain Trail element of it. So just let me know.
Can you send that to me?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, no, you know, the news places will call, like CDG will call and try to get a soundbite and all that. Be able to explain it a little better. And then the other, so yeah, like I said, I had that meeting with those job lot. Did want to bring up, just as a thought, it might be helpful to have a site visit with this group to the trail site prior to the
I think that
cleanup.
that's true.
Just so that, again, I mean, I know you guys are out there all the time, so that we all have eyes on it, we can kind of make a plan. My thought was if we have younger kids, maybe we don't want to send them back behind the asbestos dump, and maybe we can do parts of the plaza as well, like, because plaza probably has areas that need
On
to
Earth
be.
Day, you know, we went around the plaza.
Yeah.
And it was actually good,
It
you
was
know,
actually
it's
pretty
very stream, but, you know, it did need to clean up because you had a lot of bottles.
But at
Do
least
we
we can kind
wanna-
of, since it's one site, we can get there and kind
You
of
wanna
make a game
set that up?
plan.
Wanna
Sure.
Set up a site visit? You looking at August or September?
I would think August,
Okay.
probably prior to the next meeting, so
Alright.
we can use that meeting to plan, so, do you wanna, get me some, I don't have my calendar with me, but
Okay.
it's,
So we're looking for a weekday?
that always works best for me. And
Okay.
If it has to be a weekend and you guys wanna go out without me, that's fine, I'm okay with that.
All right. My time opens up like a bit after the, yeah, I have week after August 14th.
Is that open
When
because
is
everyone
our-
else is on vacation? Like a big vacation week before school starts.
But I don't know, do we want, can anybody do any particular days?
But doesn't mornings and Wednesdays work out?
For site walks?
Site visits,
Yeah, Wednesday mornings, okay
Usually it
for
works
you?
better.
Sorry,
I can do that too.
I could probably.
you could go down to your
Or
own
like if it's
too.
just like an hour or two or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because I'm gonna
Okay.
have a meeting scheduled.
So how would Wednesday, the 16th be?
What,
10? Not earlier, do you want me?
I don't know without looking at that.
Oh.
We can start Wednesday at AM.
Why don't you come back with a
I'll come
time
back
for
with a
us?
time,
Yeah,
yeah.
so pencil in. All right, Red Mountain.
Yeah, if you pencil in at like 9 or 10.
And are you gonna start by Planet Fitness?
No, I was thinking actually starting over, or staging behind Town Fair Tire.
Mhm.
Okay.
Because there's more room back there, we can hopefully get a dumpster placed back there, whereas if we're by,
Right,
they have all the trucks come in that way,
Okay.
and then there's also Planet Fitness, and I just wouldn't wanna cramp their style. So that was my thought.
Right, that's where we left off.
And that's where that
Access.
access is
Yep.
on that side too. But we would obviously send a group down to the other side as well. Back to the building. But yeah, no, we'll see once we get there too. We can kind of look at the sites and see. It'd be kind of shady there too, and it's anywhere else.
yeah, that is a shadier area.
and there were beavers in the through the around the parking lot.
Yeah, yeah,
And then there's like an intersection, you know, from State and Towns, and
right.
a couple beavers there hard at work. It was
Wow.
quite the sight.
That used to be where Lee Reynolds was, there was Farley's was, lumber company. Mark McCarron, probably got the picture from Fitzgerald's
Yeah.
Manufacturing. And I looked at that because I was up on North Main Street. I thought, oh, there it is, because you could see the bridge.
So yeah, if there are beavers making their way down the mountain, those are being spawned up at the top of the hill. They're gonna colonize, they're colonizing Torrington.
Yeah, yeah.
Downtown.
See if the river, local waters are rising.
So the idea of this meeting is just to kind of get
A lay of the land and maybe come up with a, because
limits of where you wanna go.
Because when people come, right, when people come, we'll have gloves and bags and the dumpster and food and just be the starting point for everyone, which is what we do at Cove Park.
Mhm.
But, you know, we want to be able to not, the site makes me a little nervous because we have asbestos dump and we have homeless encampments. And I just want
It
to
is,
like,
we really should know what the.
I just want to know like,
Things are.
if
I
maybe
mean,
we get some
even-
tape and tape off the asbestos dump and say
Right.
just like, no,
Well,
They-
it's
they
not
can-
contained though, I thought that was.
I just wouldn't wanna.
He wants, he
It's
wants
my
to look at it, he
understanding
wants
that-
to have eyes on it,
Okay.
right?
Is
It's just,
well,
it's a
it-
liability issue, it's a safety issue, so we just, I think that there is a lot going on down there.
Yeah. that-
And I mean, even just in terms of, gosh, do you remember who the outreach person was for the homeless, at that meeting that we had? It was mentioned, and it's a female, I don't know who she is, but you know who knew was the guy from Hartford Healthcare, whoever that was.
Oh, I know what
He
you're talking
knew,
about,
he
yeah.
knew who it was, but I'm wondering whether we reach out to her to have her reach out to that group. She was a trusted, I can't remember yeah, I mean, she was a trusted contact, is, I think, some, to that effect is how he put it. So I'm wondering if we give, the homeless encampment a heads up.
I think
I
that's a
think
good
that that
idea.
would be a nice
Yes.
thing to do.
I guess my other thought is I just don't want this to be like press branded as, you know, Torrington citizens disassemble homeless
Well,
encampments
and
for
that's the
the
other
city,
thing, is
you
I
know?
don't want that.
That's like the
I
last
don't want
thing I
that,
wanna see.
yeah, I don't want that
As far as
happening
how it's
either.
optics.
I want them, I would like them, you know.
I've been there a few times and
They've moved on
I think they went up.
They did go up.
onto
because
the,
we-
onto
we-
the 10 acre
trail.
parcel.
Off the trail.
Because when we originally went through the Ronda Trail, we definitely were out of sight. It was kind of interesting to think, but very clever.
Which, yeah, I mean, when you have to survive,
There were
I think it's
people in
nice to let
tents
them know.
between the fitness, Planet Fitness and
Yeah,
still on the
But
trail.
that's close to where the asbestos dump is, right?
yeah.
So
it's
maybe
out
we don't
there.
go that
I-
direction, maybe
I
we
didn't
don't
think
go.
that was where this.
Well, there's another, I'm kind of confused as to where this asbestos stuff is, because, yeah, Jeremy was
Because
kind
I
of
thought it was
saying,
more behind Tomford.
that's what
Town
Jeremy
fair,
was
I
saying.
thought, yeah.
I
Oh,
thought it was,
like
more-
it's-
I
is
thought
it
it was
like-
more over in where you're talking about, but that's where, so I don't even know where this,
Okay.
I'll talk to
There was
Rista,
some
'cause
major industrial, when I used to oversee.
you lived behind.
Stuff, yeah, I lived
Okay.
behind there and I used to do, that was my cleanup spot every year. I think I cleaned up,
Yeah.
I think a homeless encampment. It was a much smaller population, maybe it was only 1 or 2 people, but I mean, it was like a decade's worth of nippers. Like it took
Oh,
us,
man.
it took us 5 years to get down to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
You know, it was like leaf litter and
Do we
nippers,
have,
and then the
like-
next season,
Like,
leaf
what
litter
are
and
the
nippers.
police or someone on site as we do the throw cleanup? Or-
We don't, I mean, I could bring that up
Or-
and at least have them maybe send someone to swing by in case, you know, that's not a bad idea, just,
Tom Condepper has maps, so all the species, burial spots are cited on the map. After all out when it did the development and that burial gasket company, those are burial spots and it's memorialized by lots of granite rocks. No one's gonna be getting under.
Okay, so it's-
Yeah.
So those are just,
So
but
that-
it's
yeah,
good
there
to know
was-
where it is.
All right. Are we ready to move on to the next order of business?
sure.
All right, so food forest planning.
Um,
Do we have any updates on that?
I cannot get in touch with the new park and rec director.
Interesting.
I have called him 4 or 5 times and left
Wow.
4 emails.
Well, that bodes well.
I know, I was really hoping for something different this time, but I think that position is just really slammed, but like I thought, calling the office for sure would get, I left many messages.
Is this time of year like flat out though?
It's,
Fireworks. stuff
yeah,
like
I'm
that,
sure that's why I'm sure that they're just, my understanding from Brent in the past, extremely overtaxed. So, yeah,
Is there a
He wasn't in
budget, is
the
there anything in the
office.
budget to get them assistant?
don't know for sure. I thought I had heard something about that in the past, but I don't know. Nothing that's happened. But anyway, it's kind of the position we were in last year where
Yeah.
we just wanted to do
Okay.
one of those parks, but we can't move forward without,
Some kind of
without Park and
communication.
Rec.
Okay.
And then out of that other site on Cook Street, I'll bring it up again. We haven't had a lot of land use. So I'll bring it up to the mayor again next week.
So maybe our low hanging fruit is to go after our open space parcels.
Yeah.
One of the things that we're
Yeah.
basically in charge of.
Yeah, so maybe back to the drawing board, it's looking, getting that, I don't have a map prepared, but
Right, yeah.
looking at those places, especially after we have our open space.
Finished, yeah.
Saying,
And we go back and we
what's a
pick-
good
we
starting
pick one.
point, even if it's not
Yeah.
perfect.
Right, exactly, because it just gets us going.
But,
And then we can build some momentum on that.
yeah, on that, well, my understanding that spot we're looking at behind the building.
Yeah.
On
is
Taylor
like
Street.
Behind, where the bank is, on the other side of the fence.
Yeah.
Adjoining, it looks like a lot on the
Yes,
side street.
yeah,
Co-Park, board said no to the pickleball courts there, they were asking for that.
Yes.
And they wanted some other things in the
Right.
park, and they were saying,
right.
no pickleball there. So I don't know if that still leaves it open for us to utilize.
And the mayor had said that, after they said that, they said, what about like, she wasn't meaning perennial forest garden in the same way, but just like an orchard or something. She said
Oh,
they
she
were,
said
she
that,
said they were
then-
opposed to that.
Oh, they were?
Yeah, so I don't know that that's true. I wasn't at that meeting. I don't really
So
know.
maybe we
but-
maybe we try and find a meeting, get together with them.
I think the question, yeah, right, it's to
Right.
talk to them and see what their perspective on, again, it's my understanding that the ownership element of it is sort of like,
That's what's
the-
contested.
it's contested whether or not
They
Copart, it's a
even
part of
have
Copart.
Purview over it.
Yes.
It's adjacent to Copart, but
Right,
it's
but do they
not
have purview
necessarily
over it?
within, and I don't know that that's
Right.
clear as to what spells out what the Copart
Because
trust is.
the Co-Park board believes it's part of Co-Park.
Right, but the
But is
city
But
doesn't,
is it?
we don't,
Right.
would
I mean,
guess it was
do they
building
think
lot.
because they're mowing their thing, are they mowing there, is that what's happening? Like,
Squatters, right?
the access is, right, it's, I mean, it's being, that's how the rear access, that's how the access in Copart from the rear, so, you know, it is functionally is right now being used. So, but again, I think
So-
I think that's a point of contention,
Right.
and, I don't know how to best
Interesting.
enter into that,
How
other
do you-
than I can bring it up to the
Wouldn't
mayor
it be in
again.
the deed?
What?
Deed?
Yeah, I would
The
think
deed
that,
would tell us who owns it.
well, how it was who
Yeah.
owned it prior.
I just
But
need
I don't know if there's like the enabling, whatever language set up the trust,
Mhm.
how they define the limit of the
Okay.
park and how squishy that may have been.
Okay.
So again, I just think it's a
Interesting.
more complicated
Okay,
situation. I'll bring it up to the mayor. My perspective, I would wanna bring it up to the mayor again before I reached out to the corporate trust.
yeah, yeah.
But that would be my next step. If that makes sense. I'll reach out to the mayor again when I have my next meeting.
Okay.
Bring it up and say, hey, this came up again. We can't, Park and Rec, it's been difficult to get in touch with them. What do you think, like, where's the status of this?
Mhm.
Bringing councils there during those meetings.
Oh,
so
good.
I can,
Yeah.
I can see, I mean,
Okay.
yeah.
Hey, the pickleball, piece of that question though, I would be careful placing that in a residential area. Well, it's allowed. Which sounds.
Yeah, but we have nothing to do with pickleball.
I know.
We don't
but
care about
just,
pickleball,
in
we don't
case
want pickleball.
that's-
Well, the mayor
We
said
want,
that
we want food for
I
us.
know, but, the whole pickleball, they're claiming all sorts of spots around town, can we put it everywhere, but the problem with placement in a residential area is, they want to play it. too,
And lights, right.
But
I mean, that's-
apparently it's really allowed to have that near a residential. So, just a word of caution if there's discussions.
Yeah, I try to stay out of pickleball conversations.
Yeah, right. Thanks, Mayor, pickleball.
Sorry, what are you saying?
But there's a New York Times article on it.
Okay, moving on to Red Mountain Trail Grant update.
Yeah, the only update on that is that I had that meeting with Ocean State Job Lot,
Got it.
and that we're all proceed. I did try to follow up with the Red Mountain, Goodwin Street, the other one. The community watch there,
Yeah,
try to present to them once we get to the step of like kind of design,
Yeah.
like redesign. Try to involve them in that design process early on, 'cause I do think the connection with improving the connection between Goodwin and the plaza could be
Yeah.
really beneficial for
Yep.
that community.
Yep.
And I reached out to police and found the contact, and I haven't heard anything from
Oh,
them,
okay.
so I don't, my only other contacts in that group are feuding with each other, in my zoning world, that I just do not want to break up with
Okay.
them.
Okay.
What is good, is that this street right next to the?
Goodwin Street is so if you go past Planet Fitness, straight back, there's a little goat trail that crosses over the railroad tracks, and it comes out on Goodwin Street. And
That's
then Goodwin
good.
Street leads to
Right.
Red Mountain
Okay.
Avenue. And the trail, is parallel to Red Mountain Avenue, perpendicular.
RFQ for someone to design the trail?
Well, so we're waiting for the state to get the contract agreement that spells out like what our procurement is gonna be for all steps along the way. We do have a BL as our like retained city engineer, and they worked on the first iteration of the plan, so hopefully we could petition to just use them, but like once if we may have to put that out to where I'm waiting till we get that agreement before I start any work, just because we are using some match, and I just want the agreement is
It's
executed,
following
and
all
then
the
we start, and we can
requirements,
start tracking time. Yeah, so we're still waiting on the state, getting that agreement.
Right, well, you do want to put out postcards or something to make sure people are involved in hearing it.
Yeah, the ideal was to hopefully engage with that group, but in the absence of that as well, we could just, send it to the.
Right.
I mean,
Because
Warrington Wills can have a separate outreach, and that's good, because they're
Yep.
they have their own association or whatever management group that we can go through. But yeah, all those the Red Mountain Ave neighborhoods.
And Main Street.
And Main Street. Well, it depends on how far we want to go out there. I guess Main Street would be close enough, that north part of Main Street, but then we have to define where we want to, cut that off. North Elm, there are some places on.
Well, I know when we talked about what we were going to do. It was gonna be Main Street up to the, and then side
Right.
streets going way up to.
Right, that makes sense, because it's like, those are the ones that like back up
Right.
against the, like, the river there.
Yep.
Yeah, no, that seems to make sense, and what I'll do is, once we get that agreement, we're gonna have like our small internal group, trails group with the city engineer, myself, and planners, just to come up with a timeline and execution and stuff, and then we would start bringing people in and get that. All very exciting. But it's,
Okay,
that's all I have.
okay, so next we're on to general solar discussion.
Yeah, before we get into the Rossi Road portion of it,
Mhm.
I have this PA 23-163. This was an act that passed concerning solar voltaics on prime farmlands
Yes, I
and
was just
statewide
reading about that
concern.
today. Yep.
So the added language is in addition to all other requirements for the issue of a certificate, the siting council shall not issue a certificate for a facility unless the applicant furnishes a bond to cover all costs associated with the decommissioning of the facility, restoration of prime farmland.
When did that happen?
Yeah, when was that passed?
June 29th.
Yeah.
Such assessments shall include, but not limited to consideration for topsoil and subsoil, dead soil compaction, alteration surface and subsurface, erosion and sediment control measures, of soil fertility. So,
So is that an amendment to the petition? Like, to, is this a new, like, what is this? Is this a new
But you-
law? Is this a new?
there was already an act that this basically, this basically describes the process for review of these, and it just adds to that setting council approval, like review
This
process.
is added to the current one that's happening now.
Not the one that
Okay.
actually, it's not grandfathered in.
Okay, so
or
this
that-
is the thing, because I have been reading, because I think, like, I don't think that we, or anyone really has a legal leg to stand on in fighting it, honestly. Because, lost it. Okay, this was municipal consultation, okay. So effective July 1, 2017, Public Act 17-218 requires for this, a solar photovoltaic facility with a capacity of 2 or more megawatts to be located on prime farmland or forest land, excluding any such facility that was selected by DEP and any solicitation issued prior to July 1, 2017 pursuant to section 16A-3F, 16A-3G, or 16A-3J. The Department of Agriculture represents in writing to the council that such project will not materially affect the status of such land as prime farmland, or DEEP represents in writing to the council that such project will not materially affect the status of land as core forest. The proposed project was selected by DEEP in a solicitation prior to July 1st, 2017. Therefore, the proposed project is exempt from the provisions of Public Act 17-28.
Yeah.
So
So-
they get to do it.
Well, the history of the project is that these rules and regs, just like you put, always like hanging behind this project, this grandfathered in. But
Right.
if it was allowed today.
If it went,
you
right,
would
it wouldn't go
not- It
through.
wouldn't go in.
But that doesn't change, I mean, we have many things, it doesn't change the fact that they are legally able to do it. It won't happen
Well,
again.
It's still a moving target, because it appears that some aspects of this project have changed. The fact that they were not going to change the topography, change the agricultural lands in their statements, and our memorandum of understanding went to that was created by the Conservation Commission. That in the decommissioning, that soils would be restored, that we would not, the project would not change the landscape or the view of this. And the proposal now is what was just thrown in there was moving the 43,000 yards of material out of that site, which changes everything. I'm assuming, because it goes to, the application that they originally proposed and our memorandum of understanding. And we should probably question.
Okay, so what kind of teeth does our memorandum of understanding? Does it have any teeth? Because I don't think it does.
It's just comments.
Right, but I mean,
Yeah.
they did come and they had a meeting with us.
Yeah, okay.
And and actually, that wasn't conservation, they came to wetlands. And they had a meeting with us and we outlined what our concerns were about it. We asked whether it would be viable farmland if they ever decommissioned the project.
And
So
And-
I'm.
Oh, and of course, they said, yes, it would be,
Okay,
but then in their comments, they would say, you know, we're gonna cut, you know, they're not gonna actually remove any of the pilings or whatever they have, the structure that holds it up. They're just gonna cut it off like 6 inches below ground level, which means it's not. I mean, you know, it isn't.
a till blade is gonna.
Exactly. So it's, you know, it's not something that they would not be restoring farmlands. And I don't see any way that, I don't think we have any teeth in requiring them to do any of that.
Well,
You know,
yeah, I think the
just-
Department of Agriculture.
yes, so no, but here they do not. The siting council has jurisdiction over all of that. So when it came across the city in 2021 or 2020, I don't know when that was, you know, we were asked if we wanted to provide any comments. And our comments were about our comments would have been about loss of farmland. But we looked at all the different departments that had written comments, and the Department of Agriculture had a pretty strong stance on loss of farmland. That's in the petition when there's the staff report regarding the petition. And it talks about, second here. So there were state agency comments. So, the Department of, they solicited comments in March 2021 from the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, the Department of Agriculture, Department of Public Health, Council on Environmental Quality, Public Utilities, Regulatory Authority, Office of Policy and Management, Department of Economic and Community Development, Department of Emergency Services, Public Protection, Department of Transportation, the Connecticut Airport Authority, so like all these State Historic Preservation Office. And they received comments back from the Council on Environmental Quality, DEEP, Department of Agriculture. Comments that related to wetland and vernal pool impacts, wetland buffers, visibility, farmland soils, livestock grazing, establishment of pollinator areas, use of chemicals and stormwater management. DEEP's comments relate to the state's goals. So DEEP was for it to achieve zero carbon electric sector by 2040. Wetlands buffers, national diversity database, stormwater management, transformer oil containment, and consultation with the Deep Dam Safety Program regarding the proposed stormwater basins at the site. And the Department of Agriculture's comments relate to the loss of farmland soils for agricultural use, adverse impact of farmland soils from construction, and implementation potential mitigation measures such as purchases of conservation easements and establishing community gardens. While the council is obligated to consult with and solicit comments from state agencies by statute, council is not required to abide by the comments from state agencies. So that's the law as it stands. I don't see how we have any, I mean, we are left out as a municipality. I mean, they ask for comments, but again, they collect the comments, they look at the comments, they can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
I was looking at I was looking at siting council projects that have been approved for Torrington. There's a really long list of them, including like wood burning electrical, wood burning power generators and stuff like that. There's tons of them. And so all kinds of energy projects are happening that they're approving. Like, to me, I mean, like, I'm concerned about the loss of farmland. Once it's gone, you don't get it back.
No.
I see it as,
Well-
I see it as local food security, I see it as a national security issue, like, I think it's really important, and I think that that new statute that is protecting it is great, so that's great. But I mean, finding out that there's wood burning facilities, for power in Torrington, I mean, like, I'd be concerned about air quality, that stuff didn't ever come up, or it wasn't particularly in the public eye, like, there's a bunch of stuff that's happening. That, the other thing that I'm thinking about in terms of the farmland is farmland is an as of right use, meaning it's relatively unregulated, am I correct in that?
Well,
I would do.
well,
Yeah, tell us your opinion.
for wetlands,
For wetlands, what
they're
else?
going through P and Z, they still are subject to.
But that's
planning
things like what about stormwater runoff and things like that?
It all depends on what they're doing, but yeah, I mean, when it's related to the marketing and sale of their product, I think that's where it becomes in the planning and zoning sphere, but operation.
But in terms of like
that's
operation
not-
and
that's
how
not
the land is
regulated,
used
no.
and.
Putting up a farm stand is,
Oh, right, but that's like the business, day-to-day business aspect of it,
Okay.
but in terms of how the usage of the land affects the environment, that's as of right.
It's,
Isn't that
well,
correct? I mean, for wetlands.
For wetlands and, I don't, I don't know if I could. Interesting point about like sediment and erosion control.
That's what I'm
I
saying,
don't know,
what is the,
I don't know, I could look into that. I'm not
I
sure.
think sediment and erosion control might be a violation.
I was
because
gonna say, I
remember
feel
that,
like
Las
I-
Gorillas had issues with that, cause like the nurseries have as of right use
Yeah.
in terms of wetlands too. But I think they did have.
Explain that as of right, because we're talking about agricultural lands, but this is now gonna be industrial generator.
But what I'm saying
But
is,
it's
is
not
that
an agricultural.
No, I'm not saying that, that the solar company has any kind of as of right use. I'm saying that what are, like, if there's any wetlands argument about the property, I see it as moot, because if we want it to be the agricultural land, there's no regulation on that for a farmer. Anyway.
We
so-
will be able to regulate the wetlands after the project is done, like, we weren't able to get it on the ground
Right,
floor, but if there's a
right.
violation, we can.
Then, yeah. Right, it's not like they have a free-for-all.
Right.
But if if a farmer comes in and they want to, and they have, streams going through their properties, upland review areas on their properties, and they wanna do a project, they come in, they tell us what they wanna do, and we say, granted, because it's an as of right.
And that's what
Use.
your project.
Yeah, but in terms of the solar project, I think we should have community involved, neighborhood, properties, petitioning out of concern over what will happen on that property. They changed what was to trucking away a great deal of property, literally on some trucks. Learning what will happen around that, what are you protecting in terms of storm agricultural land?
They definitely aren't, the agricultural is gonna be gone.
I mean, so, and to
But
get
that
to that,
wasn't what
to get
was
to that point of the
proposed, and
intervention.
Yeah, but you're saying that, they were granted rights by the siting council under a certain proposal, but if that changes, should that kind of also?
But the siting council has to be approving that. Like the siting council, I mean, so, like, the way that I'm assuming that it works is they have a process that they have to go through. They have to solicit comments from the municipalities, like Litchfield said, great, we love it. That was Litchfield's, Torrington didn't comment.
Yeah.
And, the DEEP is saying, all right, it's achieving some of our goals, it's helping us achieve some of our goals, there are some concerns. So, anyway, you solicit all these comments, you hire these different experts, there's gonna be an expert, an environmental expert. The surveys, the environmental surveys happened over the course of 4 years. It wasn't like they weren't doing any environmental surveys. They identified the species of special interest and the one species that was seen on the property. So all of that is happening as a matter of the siting council's job. They're gathering all the information and then they're making a decision, you know, and if something comes up that, that they see as an area of concern, they ask for a revision. Right, they're gonna, I mean, it's just like what Wetlands does, what our engineering department does, we require some kind of revision, so things are revised along the way. Everything that is being done is going to be by the siting council, if it's in writing. Something that the siting council is aware of. This is what I'm saying, I don't see that we have any kind of legal leg to stand on.
But really, this intervenor status would be just opening it up to public questions. It's gonna affect the neighborhood. And it would be a right that would have naturally be granted if we agree to it early on. But the way it was passed over by our city saying, oh, state siting council not do anything. You know, if we have citizens that are concerned about, you know, the direct impact right to their backyard, I think we should give them the ability to do that. And just saying the Conservation Commission agrees with that, we give this voice to ask those questions.
Why can't the group have their voice?
They applied, but the city didn't back that intervenor status.
Well, so that's why I wanted to speak to that point. So there was a application for intervenor status. Deep got back to them because it's the deep part of the review right now. And in that reply, they said, we're far enough in our process that we're not doing public. Not gonna be a public hearing. So if we were to apply, that's what an intervenor status is. Like an intervenor status would allow us to direct questions to experts during the public hearing process.
But there
If
isn't
they're
a
not
public
gonna allow us
hearing.
to have a public hearing process, there's no, like, they're so near
Right.
the end of the process of review that
Right.
they've closed the public hearing process.
So this is
So it's kind
been
of-
going on since 2017.
So it's kind of a moot point, because the intervenor status wouldn't grant us anything, because they're not gonna open the hearing, we can't ask any questions. That's the one thing.
Well,
that an intervenor
your
can do.
response kind of kept it open, but it didn't really, looking at a neighborhood group versus a conservation commission of the city, this group here would have a little bit more leverage to open. So in their response, we're saying, you know, they're not totally closing the door, but just they're no at this point unless there's, you know, some significant concern.
My other point is that what are we gonna bring up that hasn't been brought up already?
Right, what's the new
Well, this,
information?
well, if they're really removing this much material, it's a concern.
That would be the question.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's like, well, what is that? Because, you know, the plan was kind of laid out that they.
It does say in those originals, that staff report, that no farmland soil, no topsoil would be. from the-
But it sounds like they're going to be blasting and. That was kind of a surprise that.
That has to all be on the public record though, can we get it and read about it? Like,
What the review, like the review
just,
process?
just what where that came, I mean, if that's the case, where is that? Like, how do you know about it?
Yeah, I have this group that's closely,
Right, and how do they know about it?
because they're closely following it.
But what I'm saying is, there's gotta be written documentation
I think it's
someplace.
right on that. State signing.
Okay, so in the, what is the document? Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
what's the document?
I'll find that. But remember, if you go on the state, there's hundreds.
I understand.
It's really.
I know, it's, well, it's
So-
been going on for many, many years and they've been reading many, many documents.
So I think there is something there is concern. I think that we should be more active in these kinds of projects. When they went around and did these RFPs across 3 or 4 states, I think this is the only remaining project that may go through. There's Lake, that's been squashed. There was one at Killingly, squashed, different reasons. Killingly people, solar panels, they're worried about, it's gonna kill the firemen. And they couldn't get the trucks into the grounds because of how shape was.
So that kind of thing to me says that the siting council process is legit.
Well, the difference was that those communities got active and they said, no, we don't want this, we can't fight the fire. And have that as design city. Those reasons, so they were active, they took a lead to say, not here.
They had public comment at those.
And Kenwood Lake also had it.
Okay.
So Massachusetts said, no, we're just totally revamped everything, we didn't allow those kinds of developments. Changed farmland, quickly, they changed this, the solar panels around fields, it was kind of a shared experience with farmers, so they win-wins with their, also have big energy needs.
Mhm.
So they totally redesigned how park. So I think Rhode Island is sort of it seems to be.
Well, I mean, at what level was that? At the state level that happened? Was that
Yeah.
at a municipal level? So I mean, what?
Well, the other sites in Connecticut were, they said no at the local level, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, state level. Something concerning, those developments.
So I have a question. You believe that they jumped in response to the development bucket?
I
Or
don't
do
know,
you-
or were they just
Or
ahead?
was there legislation that, I mean, because to me, the avenue of action should be getting the legislation out that works. It looks like we already have a portion of it. But
It's coming, and some of the documents that you read through, they're proposed ones, and that was one of the proposed. They had quite a few of those entities publishing these, and they say how we would do it. But it takes a while to go through state to get those approvals because, how does it affect these developments? Pushing hard to have energies,
Mhm.
but, it does seem like this type of project we're sacrificing.
Well, I mean, the last, I can't remember if it was Kakiewicz, I think it was a Kakiewicz commission, but the lieutenant governor had talked about the state of regulation there, and they were saying they made a big mistake promoting gas. Natural gas, that they were, that it had environmental consequences that hadn't been thought through when they were direction. And, so, I mean, I just feel like legislation is trying to push for climate friendly solutions and, fuel cells, like the creation of them is like, as is solar stuff, like it's very difficult. The consequences of the next technology is gonna be being implemented. I mean, that's kind of the process that we go through. But I feel like the ship has sailed on this one. I can find out how you all are feeling about it. But if there is no, I don't think that because it's a conservation commission that that's going to change. Like they solicited comments from all these state agencies, and only I thought was kind of interesting is that not all of them responded. Right, yes, so,
But there's an environmental commission
mhm.
that very strongly worded, like, this is really bad. And, yeah, I think we should pay attention. I think that we should be voicing our concerns locally, and especially this group that listed that as one assembly project. Literally going to be.
And, I mean, getting to the point of the Killingly example that you're
Yeah.
talking about, I think you're right, that it might make more of a difference if it, rather than from, because if it was a safety thing, those kind of concerns, I think, I mean, not unfortunately, they're very important, so that's why they carry a lot of weight, but the environmental concerns, don't necessarily rise to that, if they think that it's being addressed.
Right, unfortunately, everyone here is state siting council, you break down, there's nothing you can do, it's out of your hands, you're powerless. This does count locally. I would say, naturally, you should be doing something, and the state siting council would be listening to addressing concerns. This is bad, this is better way.
I mean,
Back to this standing, I mean, maybe it's not a legally binding document, but it must have teeth. I mean, it's.
Does it have teeth?
Because
No.
I think it's acknowledging that that they've heard our comments.
Right,
and that
we have
they're going to
concerns
bring
and
them
they've
into
heard
the-
it. It's like,
Right.
Yeah,
I validate that what you said, doesn't mean that they have to do
The
anything.
siting council is a very interesting animal, and it isn't in coming, I was in New York State, even large projects, like bigger than this, are all handled by P and Z. And every one of those projects in the Hudson Valley, right, like Dutchess County, Columbia, Wash, every single one of them. Visual landscape, that entire area.
Mhm.
And I think that's why Connecticut is using such a draconian kind of method. Because I think that they think that if we didn't have this, then there wouldn't be any. Yeah, it's either.
I don't see I mean, when we have interventions with wetlands, work, it's, it's always a not in my backyard. It's don't ruin my vista, there's gonna be traffic, but it's gonna inconvenience me. I don't ever really see people fighting for, folks in Hartford who have all the incinerators and asthma from burning all of our trash, Bridgeport and stuff like that.
well, they are now.
Well, yeah, because Hartford, because it's getting to be too expensive, and you have a good.
Well, they would have rebuilt it, but because, not by suicide, not because of social issues. Yes, they can lower their particular, very small particular. Concerning them,
Yeah.
that they think that there is neighboring health issues and it's unfair.
No, it is.
And placing that anywhere else would just endanger, it's just not.
So I mean,
That was
but
what he
I'm
said.
saying, yeah, I think, I agree. And I'm just, what I am saying is that, the not in my backyard is usually a very privileged position. And they're looking for it to go someplace where there's less to fight it. And I would, I'm saying legislation, like, if we're gonna fight for something or recommend something, I think legislation that is attentive to the needs of everybody is where I would want to put my energy. As opposed to, I mean, to me, what I'm hearing is like they want to ask questions, but they know the answers to the questions already. Like, it looks like a way of stalling.
Well, it sounds like it's pretty big, 10 yards. They have. Dump trucks. I don't think that was anywhere. And in the end of our memorandum of understanding, we say we're generally supportive of the initiative. And I would have to question that if gate off the whole perimeter of the property. You know, walks or trails.
So I would say that this is the,
A lot of things like
that
that's-
the soil removal is the main concern. That information needs to be gathered in a very specific and systematic way, with, you know, documents, and and then that the Conservation Commission could, and maybe for people, could send that information to the mayor's. Say that we have a
Why
concern
not,
because
you know,
of this.
address that here? As to have a vote with that information. Write a letter. Chairman of the siting council asking for that.
So do you have the information?
Well,
All right, so first we need the information. That's step number one. Like, I thought that was what we were gonna do
Well-
last month.
well, that particular issue didn't come.
You were talking about that last
Oh,
month.
yes. Well, seeing that, so we, you know, I gathered documents, so we, everyone that's here up to speed over different pieces. So I don't want to take you know.
But I'm saying if we could have a document and we could have a list of this, you know, I mean, it doesn't have to be an hour. I don't think it has to be 2 hours. We just need to have, what the issue is, where that change was made and when. I mean, you're kind of implying like the siting council, like approved something and then they changed, and then the solar company changed. And like, I mean,
What, the proposal that was. Went into. And now it's. Get that, what was originally proposed now. I think that.
I mean, when
Question.
they change Walmart, even just orientation and not the space, that triggers our approval, right?
Right.
And it didn't in that case, is what you're.
Yeah,
it
that's
didn't,
my
in
understanding.
for who? It didn't trigger the approval for who?
Oh, yeah, we weren't in the original process, yeah.
Right, we're not in the process, so did it trigger a no approval? for
So my
siting
other
council?
question is if the agricultural land is what we're concerned about and the trucking of the material, I'm wondering if there's opportunity in some of the open space that we have to try to make a deal to say, can we take that agricultural soil, because we know that's good soil, and put it someplace for our food forest or something, or trails or something. That's a lot of material, that's a lot of money. If we can't,
I'm sure that's why, I'm
intervene
sure
there.
they're selling it.
yeah, if we
Right.
can't intervene there, maybe we can take that resource and make it beneficial, so we can't do something with it elsewhere. I mean, that might be a trade-off we can make if they're not willing to budge.
But why would they?
It's
But
probably,
why-
it's
why
probably
would
baked,
they-
it's probably baked into their, like, their.
Like, why,
cost to sell it.
what is our leverage if they don't budge that they would ever make a deal with us? What's our leverage? The public hearings are closed.
Yeah.
So if they're saying the public hearings are closed, this is a change,
change,
a huge change.
Which happened when?
It must have been recently. That's why
I think
this
that's-
neighborhood was.
So I guess that I would just like to see what that
This
timeline
petition was
is.
recent though?
I believe so, yes. It's
I
like
think it's
within
important
a
to see
couple
that,
months.
yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
We just need to have
It
that.
does sound like, well, this is the thing they're trying to pull at the very end because they know everything else has been,
Agreed upon.
agreed upon
Yeah.
and.
Well, who's trying to pull it?
Well,
And why would they need to pull it? Like, why would they need to pull a shady thing? I mean, if everything is
Well,
being
why didn't
overseen
they-
by the siting council, right now it's being reviewed by DEP, correct? So that's being reviewed by DEP. Do we send a letter to DEP? Say, concerned about the soil removal?
That's what it went to the siting council, but it was deep, I think, on it, it was they're in their review
Yeah.
process. So like you were saying before, like in any application, they're probably going back and forth
Mhm.
with revisions.
Right.
But, you know, the bigger problem was the slope. The slope and maybe Heath Act did that.
Remove material so that it wouldn't be.
Uh, know, down there, because there's a lot of documentation.
Would Deep
well,
respond to a question like that? I mean, I know they don't have to, but would they?
Within the process.
Yeah.
I think everything goes through the siting council, like they're working they're almost like a consultant for
For
the
the
siting
siting,
council.
right, they're the
So
environmental.
I doubt they
consultant.
would give us any, they would probably say, follow up with the siting council,
Right,
or,
right.
know.
But would they publish that on their site?
Everything has to be public record.
Yeah,
Everything that
it's
they're
just,
doing
it
has to be
becomes like a
public
mountain of
record.
information to go
Right.
through, and that's why it's really something that you'd wanna hire a lawyer to do, to gather something. But again, at the end of the day, all you're doing is saying, well, I'm concerned about the slope. Thank you for your concern.
Right. Right.
You know, like, it's like, if there was like a new species, like if,
Yeah,
like a rabbit wandered in and we happen to have this record and it wasn't part of the public record for that project, and we could say, wait, there's like this new record, but if we don't have any new information to bring, we can say, well, we're concerned about this. Say, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what, I'm just worried that I wouldn't wanna invest massive amount, because there would be a massive amount of staff and our time
Mhm.
for them to just spit it out and say,
Yeah.
no.
yeah, no,
Which
I
is like-
would say that none of this would be on staff, so this is. So we kind of want to open it up to this group that's concerned about what's in their backyard. Concerned about not in my backyard. I think that should have a say, happens locally.
I think they should be
And
engaged.
They should have a say-so, in that process. Local. should be small. Engagements there. On these issues. Let's find that information and why that change was made. So
Mhm.
I was guessing it was kind of, because they initiated this with Keith, and now there's this series of changes that could be concerning, but without someone explaining that. Don't know much. Because it's an opaque process. The state sign council is just lifting everybody's view.
I think it's a convoluted process and it's an extremely data-heavy process, but I don't think it's opaque. Like, every document has been published
Yeah,
in a place where the public can read it. Well, this is the kind of thing I'm saying, is why are we doing an intervention in an area where we don't even know if any of our concerns are, like, I don't know, I don't really have that, we have a concern as a conservation commission, right? That's part of our purview. We're trying to inventory our open space, figure out what the best uses are. We're trying to figure out our wildlife corridors and earmark properties for conservation. But when push comes to shove, the conservation happens because we get the money to purchase the property. Like we're in the same boat as a city, as a municipality, as any other land-loving citizen is that if someone else buys it and wants to develop it, that is our structure as a country. That is their right within the regulatory system.
Well, I somewhat disagree with, if we're a nuclear.
The siting council would be.
Well, put nuclear reactor, everything's good. Discharge in the river. But we would, I would think that we would have a say and we would interact with that.
Okay.
Participate in the process to at least open the question whether it's viable.
But I feel like we need to feel like we have a strong authority over the application in order to have any kind of case to open it up for questions at all. The information is all there. We've been following along, the information is available to you. It's not, I think coming at it, from what, 2016? So, 7 years later, a lot of information to wade through at this point. So, but that's not the siting council. It's like, that's not the siting council trying to be obtuse. It's just that's a lot of information to wade through at this point. But the information hasn't been obscured, hasn't been hidden. It's just a lot of it.
But I would say we need, I try to present it simply here, is playing the siting council process, so that their own understanding, and just to, simplify the high touch points here. Because if we presented the pieces that are listed, it's very thick. The jargon, very hard. Interpret, you need an expert to go through that. So I do have some skilled people carrying out this. And I would say it might be a very long meeting to go through that and how that reads, why that's a cost. That's why I was proposing having a separate meeting and hosting here. Very time.
But where else, so what do you mean by a separate meeting?
Well, most people come here with expectation of having a 1 to being beyond that, which we are now, would be quite lengthy.
Yeah.
But if you volunteer to come to a meeting, we can use a separate meeting.
How does that work, Nate, in terms of Conservation Commission and public record and everything
Well,
else?
we would have a special meeting. We'd have to,
Like, we can't meet outside of the public record
no, we'd have,
as a,
we'd have a
we
special
cannot do
meeting.
that.
It would be another meeting like this. Like, that's, schedule that,
Right.
we can schedule another, we could have another meeting, like 2 meetings a month.
But yeah, we can't get together and,
Especially if it's gonna come out as a
not as a council.
document,
Right.
like.
But could you take away a talking point meeting with,
The neighborhood group could come to a concert, like, we could schedule them to come to the Conservation Commission. And they could, lay out, but I know what the concerns are. I don't need to be educated on the concerns. I understand what the concerns are. The question is there proof citing council did something or didn't follow their protocol? Because other than that, I'm just gonna tell you, because I've had interveners and wetlands commissions, I've been doing this for decades. I've had interveners, they come in, they look like, they do not know what our purview is. They don't know how the process works. And they just come in and they talk about their concerns that have absolutely nothing to do with the law that we have to follow. So, thank you. It's exactly the same thing. Like, thank you for your comments. And then we have to follow the procedure. We are legally obligated to follow the procedures and the regulations set forth for us. That is what our job is. And so I have an issue with going in ignorant and wasting time and putting in hours when I don't know, what they have done that is wrong. Like, from what I can see, they've acted legally. Just
well,
because,
I did not say that they did not.
Okay.
I'm saying that, there's a change that we're only doing now of this amount of material moving on the site. It's a change. That's what I want to question, bring up, because that is concerning in terms of restoring agriculture. That was concerned in our, that was why we're agreeable to it, and that we're not agreeable to it.
But I mean, like, the Department of Agriculture wasn't agreeable to the entire concept, and they didn't,
Exactly.
they threw the whole thing out. So
Exactly.
how are we
Yeah.
gonna,
But at least
Yeah.
Department of Agriculture said they were not agreeable to it. They said flat out, they're wrong, they're against it.
Right.
And we're saying in our MOU that, here are terms, and we're generally agreeable to the project, but now they're saying.
we're agreeable, well, no, what we're saying is we're agreeable to the project if those agricultural lands can be restored. So, I mean, it basically is implying that if they are not restoring the agricultural lands, but we're not agreeable to it. It's not saying, we're agreeable to it under a certain set of conditions.
So the record states that we're
States
not
that we're really
agreeable.
not agreeable to it.
And, okay, well, I guess I'll take it back, come up with information and see how long does it take to schedule a special.
That would be something that would have to be, I mean,
Yeah,
like,
but let's find
Well,
out
you can-
documentation and maybe we have a spokesperson that's knowledgeable about aspects of this. To see if that's worth it.
Well, that would be, if we're gonna have a special meeting, that would be the time to schedule a special meeting. If, you know, with the stipulation that you have whoever needs to be the guest and that you have the information by that time.
Yeah.
So, do we want it this month? It's the end of this month. Do we want it, sometime in the beginning of August?
I can't,
Okay.
so they do have. later.
So we don't have to necessarily schedule it, but in a second, you want to vote whether
Yeah.
we have a special
Yeah.
meeting
Let
sometime
me come
the
with
end
that.
of August?
Yeah, let me
But-
come back with documentation and then we'll decide at our August meeting.
The August meeting's end of August, right?
right,
Yeah.
so you'll take the vote on the August meeting.
Okay.
So we're gonna vote now.
All right.
Yeah.
That's fine. Yes.
Publish that document.
This is a staff report for, it's a draft, staff report. I think it's the mission number, the SR Litchfield staff report. So I don't know,
Is it for wetlands?
it doesn't look like,
Is it from Jeremy?
let me see, okay, hold on, maybe at the end it says who it's from, it's really long. Oh, it might be, it looks like it might be a wetland staff report.
Is there a link to that?
I
See
can,
what
here,
that is.
I'll just, it's not on ours, it's in the Portal Connecticut. Give me 1 second, I'll send it to you. Actually, I'll send it to you after the meeting.
Okay.
I sent it to you. I will send it to Nate and you can distribute it
Okay.
to
Yeah, I appreciate that.
everybody else.
That was good. So,
Okay, so we are now on to our open space inventory. We want to set a date for,
Do you want to do an additional one, or do you want
do
to
we
put it
need an
off?
additional? Wait,
well-
oh, do we have one already?
No, I meant like because we have the site visit scheduled for the 16th,
So
for
we
Red
put
Mountain.
that in,
I didn't know if you want, we can still do a base one and all. Scheduled.
what does everyone think? Yes or no? For an open space inventory, which would mean 2 sidewalks in August.
what is the first one?
First one is the 16th.
For the
Oh,
Red Mountain.
that one,
Yeah.
The red mountain.
That's, I'm just bringing
Oh,
it to, you know, that there's already one, but I'm happy to do another one.
About the 23rd,
What day of the week is that?
That's a Wednesday
the
as well.
Wednesday.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'll, August 23rd. In the morning, that's what we're,
Yeah.
9 or getting hot, so if everyone,
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
and Karen, you might be able to have a better chance with that. You can pick which one, you pick which one you think would be,
Yeah.
you feel like you'd be better.
And do we have a meeting place or you'll send that out?
I'll send it out. I think I was kind of scoping, I think I'm gonna do one, kind of an interesting property at Stillwater.
Oh, fun,
The,
all right.
so, you know, where the waterfall is, where the road is there, on the south side of the road, there's state property, and then there's city property all along the Naugatuck River for like good bit, kind of like right on the
Nice,
other side of
okay.
the river, so that's
Okay.
where I'm
Yeah.
thinking, knock out.
All
Well,
right.
we have beautiful properties on the last walk that were interesting on the Ford Lane.
Yep, Fort Lane was amazing.
Okay, and then our natural resources inventory.
Yep, just working with, I restarted working on that with our GIS person, so, you know, still keeping
Okay,
along.
all right, thanks. All right, so next order of business is adjournment.
Can we talk about one thing,
Sure.
the trees on the, we talked about if there's an article taking a tree on Main Street, but state route,
Right.
trying to save that, and there's some concerns about the age of the tree.
What tree?
Outside
Howard's.
Howard's,
Infant Howard, the big linden. It's
Oh,
like a-
okay,
yeah.
It's probably the biggest street tree in Torrington,
Okay.
in the downtown area.
And, both the Ray Drew is, the city forester, but I think we were talking about.
Oh, that's right, yes, so that's actually a good point, so, yeah, Ray Drew is the city tree warden,
Okay.
but I've asked him to appoint me as another deputy, the
Okay.
city engineer's deputy, so that I could help implement the tree ordinance for the
Yeah.
city, which was newly passed.
Yeah.
With our open space inspections, if we see tree cutting, we can issue, well, through the corporation house, we can issue citations and
Is this
fines.
tree cutting of city trees?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, so but like since we're doing all these open space inspections and things come up, and there's also supposed to be in that, that new ordinance, there's supposed to be coordination between the Conservation Commission and the tree warden regarding the
okay.
development of a forest management plan for the city.
we
urban
should probably
forest.
have a meeting with them. at
Yes,
some
so
point.
so I'm going to tree school and I'm gonna be appointed, so I can be that point of contact going forward.
Just that there was a concern about the sidewalk buckling, the size of the tree, I guess the tree, has all sorts of.
If you drive by it, it's very damaged by
It is
like
damaged.
clouds, you can see that half the tree is like missing,
Yeah.
and so they wanna remove it, it's my understanding from the news. That they'll post the tree, the DOT will post the tree, and there's a hearing, and people are free to speak for the tree at the hearing, but that's a state process, not
Municipal.
through our municipality or anything
Yeah.
like that.
Who owns liability for, the sidewalk buckle, someone trips and falls? Owns that liability? Store owners manage the sidewalks, does whoever who's managed, who actually
We take out
manages?
permits on all those sidewalk patios. Those are, the sidewalk is the city. The right of way is the state's, but the sidewalk is the city's. So we have to take out permits because we have to get insurance from all of those people who have their patios out to cover us in the event something happens because they're on city property. So that's how that works.
And is there a process like, all the Water Street trees were replaced, quite mature? Placed, is there like a timeline based on size thing?
I don't really know, I just know that, we don't have a an urban forest management plan, that's something also with me coming to that position, I've offered grant writing, because a big pot of money is coming, that like the state is trying to incentivize that, and so there's big pots of money coming, especially for distressed communities, for doing urban or for forest management plans. So I'd love to write that grant and participate in that development process, and then once we have the grant, once we have the plan, then we can start applying for money, and then hopefully there is rotational plans, maintenance and that kind of thing baked into.
And then, so that could actually help our food forest
I was
initiative as
thinking the
well,
same thing.
right?
Yeah, but it definitely should be integrated into
Yeah,
it, but it
okay.
could be, yeah.
But if the sidewalk, the concern with sidewalks buckling, I just wonder if there's like a way to manage the sidewalk so that you adjust it to the size of the tree.
Yeah.
the
I don't know, I'm
sidewalk
not like,
system.
there's a whole like field of like, what is that called? Textured soil, but like there's like certain there's a whole science around urban street tree growth that I really don't know it. So I'm sure
You're gonna
that
learn in tree school?
hopefully I learn in tree school. I think a lot of it has to do with the size, I think a lot of times they'll grow to a certain size and replace them. But I think there's
Like
technology to
half
let
of
them
the
bigger.
tree is gone, is the tree in danger of dying soon?
Yeah, this is a
Yeah,
hardy
but
tree.
you know
It
what?
looks really healthy,
You
it
can
looks
really
healthy
do a
still,
lot with
but,
half of a-
but it could be
half of a
basically-
trunk.
and it can be
Yeah.
structurally deficit, right? Like it could be healthy, but it could snap off. And so-
Okay,
Can I
Right.
bring up one topic
Yeah.
before we adjourn? we don't have to talk about it today, but maybe put on the schedule for next one.
Sure.
Sure.
Chickens thing. The
Oh,
chickens
good,
thing.
I'm glad that you're bringing
I just wanna bring that up, it doesn't affect me or my farm, but when we talk about food insecurity, and I know there's a lot of families in town, whether legally or illegally,
Are
that
keeping
have
backyard
chickens.
poultry.
I just wanted to bring that up.
Okay,
I think there's gonna be an open discussion or something, I think it's scheduled for September, is that right, do you know?
For the
which department?
planning and
Planning
zoning,
and zoning, I believe.
On,
There
on
was-
backyard poultry?
no,
Yeah,
I
so
wouldn't, I don't, I haven't heard that. I think that there's a development of a regulation amendment
Yes,
to
regulation
the,
change, yeah.
to the, so it would be a proposed regulation change to planning and zoning that would be, being voted on by planning and zoning. Whether, I don't know that that's on the agenda right now, but the idea is to submit it for adding to the agenda.
Okay,
Yeah.
So that would initiate, if there was a regulation change, it would need a public hearing, and that's where
Right.
that venue would be.
okay.
But I don't know, I don't wanna I don't know that that's set and that that's gonna
Yeah.
happen, but I'm sure it'll be
But
very
my question is-
popular public
is-
hearing.
Was that on like the number of acreage required for livestock specifically, or was it just that they're looking at making some zoning changes?
I believe what you're referring to is your husband is working on doing regulations.
Regulation change for the acreage.
For the acreage.
Oh,
for
so
farm
he is,
stands.
so he, okay,
So,
Yeah,
I don't know how deep, but you wanna get into this, or you just wanna table it for next?
we can talk about it next time, but if, what month was that hearing coming up?
I thought they were talking about September.
Okay,
so there's a
So
goal,
we have
it's not on
we
the
have-
agenda, but
we
a
have
goal
time.
for.
It's something that I
Okay.
think was in the works.
because if there is some kind of discussion, open discussion, then,
Yeah.
you know, we may.
So I'll definitely be there, because
With
I
your
support the
husband, yes,
initiative, it doesn't
but I
affect me
may not
personally.
be there. Yeah.
I do know that there's, a petition that was going around
Okay.
within town, they have over 1,000 signatures on it and regarding justice.
Yeah, can you go back into documentation and see if you can find the proposal that happened?
Yeah.
It was like the year before Kim left, or the year that Kim left regarding the point system. And I think Rista Malanga may know about it. So there's for urban, livestock, you can assign a certain number of points to each type of animal. And then
We do
acreage, open acreage, like what size your yard is, not necessarily a lot, what size your yard is, will have a certain number of points, and then you can mix it based on that point system. So it just can keep, if it gets small up, and keep a couple chickens, you know. but
I'll
it's
bring
all-
it to that next meeting, so that we
Okay.
can and I'll circulate it so everyone can review. it.
Yeah, I know we already did work on it, like it was already proposed. So there was one person in town hall who was against it, and I think he may be wrong.
Why are we at 3 acres?
We can have that whole discussion, we've been
Yeah.
talking about it a lot, so.
Can we move to adjourn?
I motion to adjourn.
Get a second?
All right.
Second that.
Okay, all in favor? All right, we're adjourned.
Yeah. Well,
You get that second
yeah,
this
that
time.
was one thing I did hear was, in Litchfield, like, and just because I know I'm a 4-H member in Litchfield, and you can't have 12 animals or anything in the borough. But if you have a 4-H student, there,
Some of our board meetings, people don't, like, everybody, it's like, could be like,
there you
12 people in the room and nobody's
The animal
second to motion, so.
Or using as your primary animal.